So I know that you have a son. How has the domestic violence affected him?
While we were living with it, I really didn't think it was having that much of an effect on him. He was 3 years old, and oftentimes I would think he's so young, he's not going to remember this, or he's so young, he's not really registering what's going on and what's happening with the fighting and the indirect violence that I experienced. But actually, he was the turning point in why we decided to leave, because as a 3-year-old child, he had to step in between his dad and I, stick his arms out and say, stop. So as a little toddler, that not much, you think that not much is registering, but so much is registering. And it was so evident after we left the situation, because for the first 3 years of his life, he didn't sleep. He would have night terrors, things that I just kind of disregarded. But once we left, it was changing. It's like, okay, he's he's actually sleeping through the night, and this is kind of odd. And I was able to seek out therapy for him as well, and it was very eye-opening then, the direct influence that domestic violence has on children. Just to give you the little story along with it, in the therapy he received, it was like a play therapy. So every week he'd go and he'd play with this wonderful gal, and to just, spend the hour with her and leave and come back. And for weeks and weeks it was the same scenario. He'd set up all these little peoples and animals, and they'd be having fun, and then this big giant spider would come and destroy everything. And that would be the end of it. For weeks this was the case, and finally the therapist prompted, and when he had two little owls, the mommy owl and the baby owl, and every week they were part of this destruction scene with the spider. And he told her just during play that the mommy owl flew away for a while, but now the mommy owl's back, and it makes the baby owl really happy. And then she prompted the question of, well, where's the daddy owl? And his little toddler voice says, that's the big spider, is the daddy owl. So just to hear that and know, oh my goodness, my poor little child had this big giant spider that destroyed everything, and that's who dad was to him because of the domestic violence. So a lot more is going on in those little kiddos' brains than we understand. So it's just very important that even the kiddos get the help just as much as the moms and dads that have been a victim of domestic violence and abuse.
What is something that you want the community to know about domestic violence?
As far as my own story goes, I just took it as such a nonchalant thing. Like, this has to happen to everyone. All couples have to fight and have things thrown at them and holes punched in the walls. It just seemed so common. So I think that a lot of people underestimate it and underestimate the effects. I know I did, especially verbal abuse. I didn't think anything of it. I thought it was pretty common to be called stupid and crazy all the time, but it really has a huge impact. So I think that I would want community members to not take it lightly, because it is a serious issue and it has a serious effect on people and families. So it's just not something to be overlooked, even if it seems minuscule, even if it doesn't seem like it's that bad. It is that bad.
So with the community members, if they had a family member or a friend who was in a domestic violence situation, what advice would you give to them to help out that victim?
I think definitely showing them support is important, showing them that you're there for them, that you love them, you're not going to judge them for their situation. I always felt like, for me, that it was my fault, that there was something wrong with me, and that's why he treated me that way. So I think first and foremost, just to show someone, family member, a member in the community, that if you suspect it, just to show them that you love them and you care for them, but then be able to advocate for them and speak out for them if something happens. If you see something, if you hear something, don't hesitate to report it, to call, to make those tough calls for them, because sometimes the victim can't make those calls and it takes a while. So definitely to be able to be brave and step in for them if they can't speak for themselves.